So if you watched it, you would have seen in my part 1, I talked about Johnson's retirement and what this means for Hendrick and who they're going to fill their position with. I also looked at who NASCAR.com thinks that is most likely to fill the seat. And now we're going to look at who I think is most likely to fill Jimmie Johnson's seat come 2020. So if I'm Hendrick and in some respect Johnson, my no-brainer number 1 pick is Daniel Hendrick. I know he was moved to the Cup a little too quick, but he looked pretty damn good in last year, and as you can see, he did get a pole, which doesn't really mean nothing, but it's something, I guess. And we saw him running up front every now and then. He got some good finishes, and I don't know, he looked pretty good in my eyes. Now, does Hendrick and Johnson believe that? I don't know, but at least Dale Earnhardt Jr. does enough to give him some limited rides. So when I think of Hendrick Motorsports, I think of the connection between Dale Earnhardt's nationwide team and Hendrick Motorsports. He can basically choose who goes into Hendrick's cars, and you've seen it in the future. Chase Elliott, one of his guys. William Byron, one of his guys. Alex Bowman was literally his choice to fill the seat when he retired. So I think if Hendrick does well this year in his limited starts with Earnhardt, you'll see him driving the 48 next year. It'll probably be announced before the playoffs. I'd imagine a few weeks before that, it'll be announced that Daniel Hendrick will be driving the 48. So my next pick is a little bit of a long shot, I guess. I love John Nemechek, and I think that to Hendrick, having a driver with a father that used to race Ollie, Chase Elliott, and Bill Elliott, it kind of means a little bit to him. And Nemechek is kind of a good driver. He's good talent. If he does good this year and he wins a couple races before the playoffs, you could see him announced. If they don't want Hendrick, of course. I still think Hendrick's going to be the guy, but he's my second option, I'd say, because they would probably still want a youngish driver to take the seat. And so my next pick comes maybe as a surprise to some people, but I know that a lot of fans in NASCAR would love to see this, me included, and it's Ross Chastain. I mean, he's a very good driver. He's been doing well in his starts, trying to work his way back up to the Cup and find that good ride. He'll be driving the 10, which should be a good ride this year. We'll see him fighting for championship in the Xfinity. Got very close in the trucks in a very underfunded team, and he did really well in that truck. He wasn't even supposed to run all season in it. So I think Ross Chastain could be a good fit for Hendrick. They just don't always make these kinds of picks for their seats. It would be kind of strange, I guess, to see them take Chastain. It really would be like we exhausted all our other options. Chastain's doing incredible in the Xfinity. Let's take Chastain. But I have him as my third pick because I guess I'm a little biased. I'd love to see it happen. I think that this next pick is a little similar to Chastain. It's maybe a little biased because of it, but I think Hendrick would be pretty smart to take this guy, and it's Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson would fit very, very well in at Hendrick, and he'd finally get that good ride that he's been wanting. And I think we could see a guy that would be challenging for championships in Kyle Larson. I talked about it in my previous video, so if you want to go back and look at it, you'll see that I talked about why I think Larson could be a fit. You could even see him above Chastain, I guess, in possibility of it happening, but I just don't see the possibility higher than Chastain because he might not want to leave Ganassi, depending on how well he's doing, and just take a little bit. Too many ducks to get in a row, I guess, for it to happen, in my eyes. So this next one's kind of crazy, but it goes in the same kind of mold that if you want someone who has NASCAR experience, this is a guy you could take who is also still kind of young, and it's Justin Haley. Yeah, I know he won at Daytona, and it wasn't really a win. But he's been doing well in the Nationwide, too. He's been doing well in his selected starts in the Cup. I love Justin Haley. This one's probably a little bit of bias as well, and I'll be honest in that. But I just don't really see anybody else who could be going into the 48 as of right now. Things will change, like if I'll talk about it. But like if some of Junior's guys start doing really well, then you can see them moving up sooner than later. But I think Haley's got a little bit of a shot of doing it. He doesn't really have a contract for next year, as far as I know. I think he'd be a good fit at Earnhardt. At Hendrick. He's that kind of a driver too, so he's a good personality. Like they want that blue collar, cookie cutter guy that is just perfect in interviews, and I think he could do that. So these next couple guys literally have nothing to do with how good they are as drivers, but who they drive for. And it's Noah Gragson is the first guy I have here. He drives for Earnhardt, of course, and I don't really think he's that good of a driver. I honestly don't even think that he should be in this ride, but Junior does, for whatever reason. Maybe it has something to do with money, and it might. But I kind of see how if he does well, gets a couple of wins, and starts showing up, they could move him up to driving the 48, but it would be a little bit of a rush. So yes, this would be, we exhausted all our other options, and we have Gragson above pretty much Haley and Chastain, I guess, is how they would, I in my eyes, would have to rank him, is above Haley and Chastain, because those two guys, their options are not going to be exhausted. And I guess you could see it happening. So Gragson isn't the only guy at Junior's team. We also have Michael Annett. He drives for Junior, so you could see Junior saying, hey, Annett's been down here for a while, he's doing okay. If he comes out and has a stellar year, you could see him jumping up the rankings and being one of their last options, I guess. It's exactly the same reasoning as Gragson, although I do think he's better than Gragson, but of course older, and has been trying to get up to the Cup for a while now. I don't see this one happening, but I see it happening more than some other options. So this last option sticks with the same kind of theme with drivers driving for Junior, and I guess with him it would be a little early for him to go up, and that's Zane Smith. Zane Smith, he's still very young, and he hasn't really even ran a whole lot in the Xfinity, but if he comes out just a guns blazing like a William Byron 2.0, and then Junior can vouch for him and say, hey, this is a guy I've been developing for a while. He's in my stables. He deserves Johnson's ride. This one I would be more happy about than the other two Junior ones, but is less likely because of how young he is and how little he's done as far as NASCAR and motorsports goes. This one here I talked about in my other video, and it's Erik Jones. Erik Jones, it would take a lot of things to happen in order for him to get into the ride, and if you really want to hear me talk about it extensively, you can watch my other video where I talk about how Erik Jones could potentially get into the 48. Don't see it happening, even though I'm a huge Jones fan and it would mean a lot for his career. I don't really see it happening, even though I guess it would be kind of like a lateral move for him. Now, the last option, I have this low because I have no idea what he's doing, where he's going, what could happen with him, and it's Daniel Suarez. Like, Daniel Suarez means a lot to NASCAR because of the Hispanic and Mexican people that have been coming into NASCAR and being fans because of Daniel and Daniel's Amigos. Now, going to Hendrick would be a little bit of a stretch. I don't think he's good enough for that equipment, but he could be. And it all depends on basically what he does this year and where he goes. Like, as I'm recording this video, we don't know. I think he's going to either front row or Childress, but that's up in the air. He could be going to Hendrick next year, but it's going to take a lot of things to happen. Everyone in front would have to be not good enough options or not available, and Suarez would have to do well this year and wherever he goes. So that's who I predict to be in Johnson's ride. If you disagree or agree, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear who you think is going to be driving the 48 for me. Number one pick, Daniel Hemrick, and I think he's far and away above everybody else as it stands right now. I might update this later on in the year as some of these drivers start doing better and worse than they currently have, and I'll tell you if I think that they have a higher probability of being Johnson's replacement than they do as I'm recording this video.